Hey folks, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast with your host, Tracy Hayes. Today I have a superstar of superstars. She is the best of one of the best teams in Northeast Florida with just 6 years into her real estate career. I am very interested in how this former educator has changed her family's trajectory in life. She clearly has surrounded herself with the best on the Welch team of Keller Williams, and in 2021 she was the best. So let's welcome the leader of the pack, the Benz of the Welch team, Katie Benza, to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tracy.
Thank you. I came up with that Benz line. I hope your Welch team friends catch on that.
That's hilarious.
I don't know. Mercedes-Benz fell into my head when I was saying your name, and I'm like, oh, that would go good there.
I like it. It goes well with my hashtag Buy with Benza.
Yeah, perfectly. So, Katie, I appreciate you coming on. And when I saw, because obviously Christina's created such a reputation, using her name to really name the team, because that's the Welch team, right? And putting you guys together, and you've been with her. It's been 6 years.
Four for me on the team.
4 on the team. That's
Yep.
what I thought. Because if I remember sitting down with you, I was looking at the dates. I'm like, no, I didn't sit down. I remember you were in a summer transition because you were teaching and starting to get into real estate at the same time. Am I correct?
Yes, and then I joined another brokerage for maybe about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And it was hard at first. Everybody kept saying, you can't do real estate part-time. And they're very accurate. I mean, if you want to do it well, that's for sure.
Right.
And know what you're doing. But with education, I came here. I was a special education teacher for 12 years in Cincinnati. And I thought that's the path I wanted to carve out here.
Right.
But I was kind of feeling, to be honest, a little burnt out, and I didn't feel like I was giving my kids enough time at the end of the day. And so I thought that it might be a nice change to go into real estate.
Yeah. When we're going to dig deeper in that, because I want to really dig into how, basically, your lifestyle has probably changed. I mean, obviously, we know teachers don't make a lot of money. And now you're doing so well, and how that's changed, your address, if you want to say, your zip code, as they say often. But let's start.
Literally. No, I'm just
kidding. You're from Cincinnati.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
So born and raised there. When did you leave Cincinnati and come south, or were there any in between?
Gosh, when was that?
You went to Miami University.
Yeah, of Ohio.
Of Ohio.
Yes.
That's what. I knew that. I know.
That's
I've been
impressive.
there. I've been there. Yeah, I've been to Miami University. I went to a wedding years ago, and they were using like one of the halls there on the campus. But a friend of mine's cousin or something was getting married. And he's like, "Man, come on to the wedding," and we went there. And so I knew there is a Miami University of Ohio.
Oh yeah, and we named our dog Miami. So everybody down here is very confused, thinking, "Oh, it must be either the city down here or the college." Well, that's where my husband and I kind of reconnected and got married after that.
So. Oh, okay. So what you graduate? You obviously have an education degree. When did you come to Florida?
I think it was 2014. We came originally for dual reasons, actually. My husband's job, he was in IT at the time, and there was a hub down in Jacksonville. So that was a huge driving force. But also my son, he gets these terrible migraines, and his neurologist had kind of indicated if we were near a coastline without the strong barometric pressure that it could help him. And it has.
Interesting.
So that was another huge driving force for us.
Oh wow, yeah, for sure. Wow, that's interesting. So you come here. Were you working with St. Johns County, or where did you?
So I did at the time. Zoom and all of that was not very big, but I was in Cincinnati, so I did a Skype interview, and St. Johns County you could not access it. That's where we wanted to be because that's where we were moving to.
Right.
But so I got my foot in the door in Duval at a school for just kids with dyslexia, which I thought was a kind of pretty interesting concept.
Right.
We don't have anything like that in Cincinnati. But pay was a huge problem. It was a drastic difference from Cincinnati for sure.
Right.
And my husband in our 20s, when we were in college, partying like normal college kids do, he had sold his first car to purchase a home and renovate it and flip it. So when we moved down here, he kind of wanted to get back to that and out of
Sure.
IT. And we had this conversation one night, and he's like, you're burnt out with teaching. You're not making a lot of money. I want to get back into renovating. Why don't you go ahead and, sell real estate and you can sell and purchase the homes for me. And that's kind of how it all started.
Sure. So you still were teaching a little bit, right?
At the beginning, yeah.
And then, so
yeah.
how long did you overlap?
Maybe about 4 months. I interviewed.
Wow, not long at all.
No, I kind of knew I was going to do it, and which was scary because you're really taking your whole savings. You're going out on your own, and you're just draining through your savings as you try to make a name for yourself.
Right.
Which is hard.
Yes.
When you have no sphere of influence in Jacksonville or St. Augustine. It's intense. There was a point where I thought, I'm quitting. I'm going back to teaching.
I remember sitting down with you at lunch. You were talking to Christina at the time, and
Yes.
I think as I recommend everybody. I mean, if that's the atmosphere. Christina's one of the best, if not the best, in the business, and what she's doing. Her. Obviously, because you're there every day, but whatever she's doing over there, and George and Kelly, amongst others, have added to the team over the years, but they're doing the right things. Things are happening, and I felt you could not fail there is basically what when I remember having a conversation, go there. I tell everybody, if any, you go there and you learn, which, some people do, and they move to another brokerage or, want to do it on their own or whatever. You've obviously stuck to the program and are reaping the benefits today. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, it was when we sat down for lunch, that was great advice you had given me because I was toying with the idea. I was with another brokerage. I maybe sold in my first 6 months to a year there 4 houses, if that. Mm-hmm. And that's when it was a turning point like this. We can't go on like this. So I had Christina actually over for dinner one night, and I had told her, I think I'm just going to quit, go back to teaching. And there was a lot involved with that. Like with real estate, there's an element of confidence.
Yes.
And I was at the top of my game with teaching. I was coaching other teachers in my district back home. So when I came down here, and then I'm starting to learn all over with real estate, and you're a newbie, that's intense, and it is a little bit. It depletes your confidence.
Right.
So I had mentioned to Christina, I'm done with real estate. I tried, and she had said, you know what? Come over to our team, give it a chance, and if you don't like it, go back to teaching.
Right.
And I will tell you something that separates their team apart from any other brokerage, in my opinion, is they do this when they onboard. They do this training, and it's hard. I mean, it weeds out agents in a minute for sure.
Oh, is that right? Interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You are getting an enormous amount of education, how to do cold calls, learning scripts. They're really preparing you before you go out and start selling houses. And there is an element for a few months where you're not selling. So you got to hang in there. You got to learn it. It's hard. And that's why people usually fall out. Most people need a paycheck.
So, because really she's getting down, because everyone has some creative ways. I was talking to a well-known real estate agent. She's actually on the state board, and she said she's never cold called before. She was at a different time and built up her business a different way. And ultimately you can get creative, do things to acquire business. But what I've seen some of Christina's when I've been in her office is she's really, like you said, weeding some of them out, but saying, it's time you hook yourself to that phone and you get on it. You need to get your business up so you can take time, not take time waiting for your business to get up.
Yes. And many people, including myself at the time, you're afraid of the phones. You're afraid of rejection, of people hanging up on you, and you've got to get over that hump, and that's hard for a lot of people.
No doubt in the world. I have to go to some motivational videos sometimes on YouTube and stuff, and you look at some of these guys, like, how many times was Sylvester Stallone, basically told his Rocky movie wasn't going to work, right?
Yeah,
and stories like that's what gives me. Let me take another no. Give me another hit. As he says, it's now not how hard you hit, but how hard you get hit and still get up, right?
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
no is a hit in the face emotionally, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it can beat you down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think for, those that stick it out and are able to, a little part of that is your drive and motivation, and that even if you're down, you're going to get back up and you're going to keep going, and you will do better.
I've talked to several people about coaches. I know a couple months ago you guys had Angie Bell in, and she is a great coach. But I almost feel just listening to you talk about this, I can see Christina and George and Kelly, this more senior people that have been through this boot camp that you're talking about. Yeah. Sometimes are they giving you a little pep talk and pull your bootstraps up and it's time, let's go.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say, last year I sold, 58 homes. Mm-hmm. And still, you go into the new year, and this market, as you know, is intense.
Yes.
And I still go to George, and I'll say, what if I never sell another house again?
Yeah.
And, and then he'll give me my little pep talk, and then I'm like, okay, I got this.
Right. Especially like you've sold enough. You're like, oh, you know what? I only got one more closing on my calendar right now. I actually need to, get some more. Well, am I going to get number 2 in line?
Yes.
What's going to happen next month? Or hey, in let's see, this February in April, or I only got like one closing right now. I got to start working on my April business.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Oh no, we go through the same thing.
I think the cool thing about our team, and I'm sure you guys do this too, is goal setting is huge for our team and for me personally. And I'm always, trying to achieve a certain number, and that helps me, I think, reach my goal by the end of the year.
Well, that's an interesting thing, especially for those listening. We're just talking about making cold calls. And when you are, the podcast I listen to, and not that this is information only from them, but it is a numbers game from a standpoint that if you make 100 calls that you're hopefully going to get in touch or have a conversation with so many people, and out of those conversations, if your skill level is up, you should be able to turn those into a listing or buyer opportunity and so forth. And sometimes you have to, if you're in that situation, like you said, you're worried, what am I going to have in April? Right now, I don't have anything scheduled.
Right.
As soon as those closings in March happen, I need to start getting something in process. Is that you got to get down and make those phone calls and create that.
Yes, especially the first few years.
Yeah, and it could be door knocking. It
Yep.
doesn't matter whatever you're doing. I did a presentation last week, and I called it 10X. I'd be surprised how many people in the room have not read Grant Cardone's 10X. But the point I got from Grant was, whatever you're doing, if it's cold calling, if it's knocking on doors, whatever it is, 10X on it. Put all your energy into it, and it will bear fruit, and then pick up that momentum, which I assume you're at right now. 58 clients. You got all these past customers now. Hopefully, are referring people to you. It's starting to roll.
You hit the nail on the head, because the first probably 2 years of being on the team, they kept saying, past customer referrals, they're going to come. And I'm like, no, they're not. And, oh my gosh, like by probably year 2, all of a sudden, people start calling, and I'm like, wow, this really works.
I asked the last guest I had on, but how do you, when you do get that referral, how do you personally feel when someone refers somebody on, or someone just calls you and says, hey, so-and-so that you closed last year, you may not even really have a personal relationship with them, but you just, the experience they had, they're like, you got to call Katie, and then you get that call. How does that make you feel?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a huge confidence booster from where I was at when I first started. And that's actually an area that I really strive to do well in, is follow up, so that way I do get those customer referrals, but it's about then building a relationship. So then as soon as I, get that call and I'm feeling kind of warm and fuzzy and excited that they reached out, then it's getting in front of them so that, we can build a relationship.
Right. Because we work so hard, with real estate, in sales in general, where you're really having to go out and capture an audience. We work hard to make those initial relationships, that when one of those relationships had a great experience with you or whatever it was, and they're referring to you, when we're looking into those next months, it's like you're working hard. You got 2 over here that you worked totally organically, it was all you, and all of a sudden you get 2 referrals on top of that. And it just really just you can breathe a little easier. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then you know your business is really flowing and you're doing the right thing.
Right. Right. So we were touching a little bit on your start. So you're in. Well, let's say when you initially started, before you even went to the Welch team, what was like? I mean, it was just like, oh, here's your license, go out and do it. Were you getting any, even though you were teaching at the time, getting any side instruction or coaching or anything?
So initially, the other brokerage I had joined, they do have a great training for newer agents, but where I was personally struggling is there was no real follow-up after that. You were kind of on your own, and you could just ask people in the office for help if you needed it.
Right.
Not that they wouldn't give it, but, I'm coming from a teaching background. I have, like,
Structure.
a support of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I realized about myself that I was missing a team. I'm used to, even with teaching, you have a team. Mm-hmm. You bounce ideas off each other.
Right.
In real estate, things change every day, and there's always a new problem that you kind of have to tackle, and it's nice to have people that maybe have been through it or can offer suggestions.
Well, there's no doubt we know some people who can go out on their own and are comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And in your situation, you thrive in the environment obviously that you're in now with that support. I know, I think Christina, from an outside perspective, or the Welch team, I should say again, to cover several people there, they've created a structure. I don't know if it's like you're going to work, but like you're having a sales meeting, they expect you to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it sets our team a little bit apart, because we're expected to be there for educational trainings, mm-hmm. and that makes you better and helps you problem solve. And there's so many agents out there that just don't get that educational training.
I will put that as a note. When I was doing my presentation last week, I had a slide. I was talking about the podcast and everyone that I've, the 50 people that I'd interviewed before. And, there's several points, but you just tipped on one of the, probably 4 things. It's a common theme of every successful real estate agent I've had on the show is getting that education and getting as much of it. Not just showing up just to get just enough CE credits, but actually taking those other courses or the other things that your broker's providing in the office to get every nugget that you can in the industry.
Because, things are changing with loans every day. You can't be mm-hmm. on top of it all with title. It's just nice because I know personally about me, if I were a single agent, mm-hmm. I maybe might not go. I like kind of the kicking, the tail. To
accountability.
Thank you. That's the exact word.
Yeah.
I love that about my team because
mm-hmm.
and then it's already set on my calendar and I know what to expect for the week.
Well, as a new agent, looking through this time and obviously you're still doing it today, in 58 homes. I mean, so, looking back, did the education, because another word you used earlier was confidence. Does the education not give you confidence?
Oh my gosh, tremendously. And you're, sometimes you're role playing when you're in those trainings and you're just doing things to practice and be better. And I love that aspect.
I think the other aspect, just listening to you saying to the role playing, because you're surrounding yourself also, because there's a lot of great real estate agents on the Welch team. So if you're having an internal training, you are surrounding yourself. If you think about it, of 5 people that are as great or better than you, and you're feeding off of them.
Yeah, and that's another example of, I think, why it's so important that they like you in the office, especially the first few years, because not only are you practicing with others, but you're hearing, the Georges and the Kellys and the Christinas, maybe on the phones or whatever it is they're doing, and you may not realize it, but you're internalizing and processing that, and you may be outputting that later.
There's been a couple of new loan officers and of course, of me being in the business now 16 plus years, and I told them, I said, I come to the office. I worked for many years from home. You lose the edge when you're there because you're not hearing the creativity of the others and putting it into your tool belt, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. And I tell the new loan officers, unfortunately, the new millennials, maybe they don't want to hang out with the 52-year-old dude, but I said, just sit outside my door and you will hear. We were just talking on a sales meeting Monday. Or actually, it was yesterday, I think. It was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was Wednesday. Wednesday's our sales meeting. We changed it from Monday to Wednesday. Anyway, but they were just talking about how to overcome this objection of a situation with clients, talking about obviously in our world they want to shop or whatever, and why we work with a builder, we pay all the costs. It's not going to be beat. They might be able to match it, maybe, but they're not going to beat us. And it's there. It's designed that way. Now I say that to the clients just like I just said it. I say it every time when it's brought up. I don't bring it up unless they bring it up, right? Sure. Obviously, but you have to hear that repetition. You have to hear someone else saying it, saying it with confidence to understand what you're saying is correct and accurate. How you're saying it with a little bit of passion in it in that case, because you're trying to express, hey, I'm telling you as a friend, this is the way it is.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But you have to hear that from other people around you to give you that confidence.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
We do a lot of shadowing too, which I think is important because again, you're watching someone in action. That does it every day.
I think a lot of, and it's not just in the real estate industry. Again, just in sales, just to watch someone else do it, there might be 10 things that they do. Maybe you kind of take one thing and do it exactly the way they do it. You take some of their other things and tweak it into your style, but you're constantly growing. You're constantly adding 100%. That to you. Yeah.
Even since I'm a buyer's agent, and then we have, listing agents on the team, when we go on appointments with them or vice versa, I love that because I hear the listing agents in action and I'm hearing these little nuggets that they're saying and I'm like, oh, I never knew that before.
Right.
And it's exactly what you're saying. You're growing and learning the more you can get out there in the field.
And the way your team is structured, because you're out there doing the face-to-face with the buyer's agent, as a buyer's agent, and then your transaction coordinator too, that they're saying or using the same phrases or terminology that you're using too, also builds confidence in the buyer subliminally to me.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
you're not talking like an Ohioan and they're talking like a Texan over here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It just it gives them confidence that you're all are on the same page throughout the process. So what are some things, you were in education, so obviously you're a pro reader, I would assume.
Yep.
But what do you do to kind of stay again keep your sword sharp? What are you are you podcasters? Or you like reading books or audiobooks? What do you do?
I like reading books. The one thing always resonated with me that Gary Keller wrote, because I know that I sometimes take on too much and I'm multitasking. And that's really helped me to focus on one thing. And it's interesting because a lot of agents right now don't have to pick up that one thing that they want to work on. Right now, the leads are just flowing to them, and they have no idea what it's like when the leads are not just easily coming and knocking on their door. So reading is definitely one way, but then again, like I said, the team makes it so easy because there's so many,
resources.
That help you stay fresh.
And I find personally, I like reading a book. Obviously, this past year, I've kind of turned over to podcasting because I'm not only hearing the stories, which are positive, give you energy, put you in the right frame of mind. Whatever that story is, most of them are positive, at least the ones I listen to from the podcast. I'm listening for ideas because I actually transitioned. When I first started listening, I was listening to real estate agent type podcast, massive agent podcast out of an EXP agent out in Utah. I just went back and actually just checked up on him, what he was doing. But recently I changed over to actually loan officer more slanted podcast, talking about what those are. But getting the energy out of those people and the stories behind them, if you're listening to it on the way to work, putting positive thoughts into your head, hearing other people being successful, and then saying, I might want to do that.
Absolutely.
In my business. So I get a lot of energy from the personal, I call it all personal development because to me I'm taking stuff and hopefully getting better with it.
I think that you are doing the right thing because video is huge. And I love that. That's the easiest way. I sit down after dinner, I scroll through social media, and you do have to weed through some of the, what might not be accurate and what is accurate on social media. But I love videos and everybody loves videos because they're a quick, easy way to get to the point. But that keeps you fresh too because you hear other realtors and lenders talking about what's going on currently.
Yeah, and I was it was kind of actually sad. This is a sad part of my story here today. I was doing this presentation. I was amazed by how many of my fellow loan officers are not doing video. When you listen to these podcasts of these people who are making things happen, it's not necessarily the guy in the podcast seat, but who they're interviewing obviously is a producer in one way, shape, or form. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the show. They have to have some credibility, and they're telling you, get on there and fumble through it. I mean, there's a lot of people in our area. I mean, I actually stole, I didn't steal it because I asked her for permission to use it. Cece Underwood with Keller Williams. She did this video. She's driving in a car and she's saying, I just shot a bunch of videos and you just got to do it. And, I fumble through some of them and, sometimes I have it scripted, sometimes I don't. And I just, go and do it. And it's really the top of mind, and that your friends and family, it's really, although it shouldn't replace the thank you cards that you send them or Christmas cards and remind them what you do, but really it is. Because like you said, you're on there. Oh, yeah, so-and-so's still doing that. So-and-so's still a realtor. Yeah. Because you're always talking about, not always talking about it because they tell you don't always talk, but whether you're putting a listing up or, hey, this is what I'm doing today. I've got a appointment with a buyer, whatever it is. But they're reminding your friends and family in that circle that Facebook has created amongst the other social medias that's what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I think it's the simplest concept from that. If you are not just putting your face out there on the social media just to remind friends and family, because isn't it heartbreaking when a friend uses someone else and you're like, they're like, oh, I didn't know you were still doing that.
Yes, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Talk about totally bursting your bubble.
Yes, those are rough.
You have to go and take a couple deep breaths.
Yes, get a little thick skin because that's hard at the beginning, especially.
And you chalk it up as a learning lesson. So, let's dig into Katie the realtor a little bit here. So we'll change up pace a little bit. In 6 years now, you've been in the business. Is there anything you would have done differently?
Actually, it's funny you say that because a lot of clients or maybe even friends I have now come to me and ask what the best path is to start in real estate and what should they do. And typically what I tell them is they should interview those brokerages, and really if you don't have a sphere, you need to be asking your brokerage, well, what are you going to be doing for me? That sounds crazy because there's so many realtors right now.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I struggled because I didn't have friends or family here. I was fresh to, St. Augustine area.
And you lived in a neighborhood at the time where every other house was a realtor.
Yes,
yes, it seemed that way.
And at the time, floor duty was still a thing when I was in that brokerage. And here I am sitting there the whole time like, well, everybody can just find these on, online. So I don't know what I'm doing here. But I always recommend that they ask if they're going to join a team, if their team will be providing leads for them. It's huge when you're starting out. Huge. And
you need some at bats. You need to actually do it, and it's maybe you have a friend that will accept your not perfectness. But you need to have some practice to start sharpening your skill at a faster pace.
Exactly. And I've seen so many new agents where if they didn't have that pipeline, or even if they did, after you run through those, then what? If you don't, have the education and the training to convert leads.
Right.
Because that was a mistake I made. I wish I would have asked that from the beginning of the brokerage I was at. How are you going to help me as a new agent other than the training initially?
Making sure you're having a thorough interview with brokers. They're all calling you as soon as you get your license anyway.
Right.
I mean, Watson provides a class just to have that in-house. I mean, to be calling you, but to sit down and really interview, because there are some people that have fallen into some brokerages and been successful because they just fell into the right one.
Yep.
But just as many have spent numerous years before figuring out maybe that style is not good and gone to another thing. But we don't know how many, we kind of do, how many actually get their license and never really even sell a home.
Right.
And technically their license expires at the end of the year or whenever the anniversary is, and they never renew.
Exactly. Well, and so the second mistake I made was when I was on my own, I paid for Zillow at the time to be in, zip codes. And that was a waste of time because if you don't know how to handle yourself on the phone and convert leads, then you're
wasting a lot of money.
Yeah, you've become a door opener who's throwing your money,
right.
away.
That just gave me a thought. I was thinking, in 2005 when I started Quicken Loans and they were hiring about 120 people a month to go in there, and we were doing some role play. You went through a training for 30 days, and in the evenings, they'd let you go and you could go up to the floor because everyone was assigned a team, and you knew where you were going eventually when you actually got out of the training. But they could afford to throw you a bunch of leads, knowing that you're there because they knew they needed to get you up. So they're throwing these stuff at you so you could sharpen your sword.
Yeah.
It's a lot more expensive on your end.
Right.
Versus those guys out there with lowermybills.com or Zillow or all those lead generation sites where someone's clicking and it's going to that mortgage company.
Yep.
You're paying a lot of money and it's really coming out of your pocket in this case. So Zillow leads are not cheap.
Right. So my savings is just dwindling that first
year. They probably cost 10 times as much as they did when you started 6 years ago now, I would imagine, for that same lead.
Yeah.
But you need that practice. And some of that practice is, like role playing.
Absolutely. I mean, I was coming from an educational background, not a sales background. So, I'm looking at it like, what? Doesn't everybody want to work with the person they call? Just, kind of living in my nice bubble where everybody's honest. And that's not to say that some aren't, but some are definitely taking advantage of you. They just want you to open the door.
Right.
And there are just a lot of best practices that you can be doing so you're not a door opener.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest things is actually, the script is good because it gets, someone new who doesn't really have a flow or a practice, it gives you something to work with. But really, would you agree the most important, especially when you're on the phone with somebody, is actually learning to listen to what they're saying and how they're saying it to pick out what's important?
Yes. It's funny because even, when I'm at my office, I can hear sometimes, I'm sure I do it, and then hearing others on our team do it, like they're talking and they're interjecting, and you're like, oh, take a breath.
Yes.
And it reminds me, I need to take a breath. Just listen. Listen to their needs and wants.
We dealt with this in the call centers that I work with. The first 12 years we were in call centers, and you can, just go on, especially they just learned all this stuff and they're excited, right? And then now they got somebody on the phone who's actually like interested in a mortgage, but they're just getting the garbage of the mouth because they just want to spill out all this stuff they learned, and it's probably 90% of it's probably not even relevant to that person.
Yeah.
Because if you just listen, they're going to tell you what they want, and then you just need to fill those wants and needs that they have, right? In one some way, shape, or form or another.
Absolutely.
What was my Nick is. Who would you say, now you got several people, but who would you, assuming some of them are listening right now, who would you, or maybe they're not even in the office, maybe you're going to tell me someone I don't even know. Who is your go-to person? When stuff hits the fan, so to speak, but who do you really rely on a day-to-day basis as that mentor or resource?
Well, this is going to sound crazy. I have two, but I would say the driving force that I think really helped with my career actually was my husband.
Oh.
He helped open up Keller Williams in Cincinnati with his dad and stepmom a long time ago. He's grown up in the industry with his dad being in commercial and his stepmom at the time being a real estate agent. So he knows the ins and outs, and he loves law. So he's kind of been my go-to, especially with law, because that's not an area I was always strong in, and I'll kind of go for him for advice.
From the contract, anything like that, how to word some of the things in that area where you can kind of handwrite anything in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And part of setting yourself apart, I think, from other realtors is knowing the contract and the language, and how can you explain it, to your buyer so they can understand it without getting into, I'm not an attorney, but you want them to understand what they're signing.
Right.
So, he's been a huge driving force, still is. I have problems every day, and it'll be 10 o'clock, and I'm still working on one. He'll go, don't you think we should put this to rest for tonight?
Yeah, nothing's going to happen between now and 6 a.m.
Right, exactly. But then my number two on our team always is George. I mean, even now, I called him a lot at the beginning, but even now I'll have problems or if it's a situation that maybe happens with our own personal renovation properties, sometimes I need to call him and say, okay, I need to separate myself emotionally from this transaction.
Right.
Can you just shoot it straight, just the facts?
Right.
And he'll be like, he's very great at just, there's no emotional response. He can give you great suggestions and advice.
How does it feel when your husband's been in the business, so obviously you guys talk shop?
All the time. Exhaust my parents.
And obviously he was the one who kind of said, why don't you get into real estate? I mean, what kind of confidence does that give you that obviously your number one person in your life is just totally behind you?
I have heard other marriages. I won't say who or what, but where one is the realtor and one doesn't understand real estate at all. Right. But it does. If you love it and it's your passion, it consumes you. It does. I like talking about it a lot of the day.
Right.
And if he weren't in it too and enjoyed it, I'm sure there would get to a point, I've heard other spouses say, where they're just, can we not talk about that all the time? Right. So it could put a strain on your marriage,
Yeah.
I mean, you both are in the biz.
Our strain is, why are you guys asking for all this paperwork? Because she's on your end and I'm on my end. I'm like, welcome to our world. That's what I say. Welcome to the lending world today. You got a self-employed client. They're trying to close in 30 days, and we got the pedal to the metal. But they're people that are processing and underwriting these loans, and they're doing the best they can, and they have a process that they need to stick to because that's how they're able to process and underwrite as many loans they do because they have systems in play and sometimes that document goes out, and I'm explaining all this to her. I hope sometimes we ask for a document and all of a sudden that document comes back and all of a sudden that document says something on it that says we need some more of this other document.
Right.
Yeah. And those things go on in our world and as strict as it is. That's kind of our battle, and she knows when she gets on me that I told her the other day, I said, okay, all right, I'm going to brink of getting fired, but I'm going to go and light a fire under someone's tail to get this done because it's not something I do, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that.
That's so funny.
Because I will. I mean, I don't. I have a low threshold for someone saying they can't do something.
Yeah.
Without a solution or you're like, hey, I can't do it, but I think so-and-so can, or something like, just finding those things. I hate when someone says I can't do something. It just drives me nuts. I'm like, trust me, you can.
Let's find a way.
Yeah, people, trust me, if you think deep enough, people that can either help you, or if you're not the person that actually can get it done, a name or someone that does know who can get it done, type of thing. But that's a whole other subject. But we from a realtor to loan officer battle back and forth. To understand our world. It's not as easy as, he does make a lot of money, trust me, but we have to get the documents. So,
absolutely.
What would you say? So we looked back on what would you do differently? Where would you say right now would be the area that you need the most improvement on? What would George tell me you need the most improvement on?
Oh, I know what he would tell me. So the team was pushing me in the past year to go to the next level and get an assistant. And that's hard because you go through, A, you're relinquishing control, and B, you are giving some of your money to someone else.
Right.
But I would say I struggle. I know my kids, my family would say it. I like control. I like, you and I just spoke about how your wife likes it.
Yeah, we were talking before the show.
Yeah. And so it is very difficult. I feel like I'm going to do it the best.
Yes.
And I have found an assistant who is fantastic, but I've learned about myself. It's hard for me to, just ask her to do things. I feel like I'll just do them myself.
Yes.
So pushing me to the next level, she'll actually be going, I'm so proud of her. She's going to be an agent this spring. She's learned a lot, I think, from our team.
Right.
But so I'll be looking for someone else. And I know that when I do that, I need to be better at managing my time, really utilizing them. I struggle with nights and weekends, like every realtor, and I need to find a little more balance so I can be with my family.
There's so many things that we do in this industry, and I'm not the only, I'm sure others do, but that we take away from our family's time doing some mediocre task. Not to say it's not important, but obviously we do it because we think it's important.
Right.
And it's just not the, meeting with that buyer is obviously on the top of the list, or doing your lead generation stuff, whatever that may do on a hands-to-hand where you need to be the face of it.
Yeah.
But there's so much back-end stuff that we need someone who likes doing that.
Right.
To do some of those hourly tasks.
Yeah.
And maybe they grow up and be an agent if they want to. Some people like just doing it. And they like their 9 to 5 and go home.
Like
that's their
regular
personality.
Salary.
Yeah. Yeah. They like the guarantee, right? So to break away and say, this is important. This is the money making. This is where I make my $500 an hour.
Right.
This is where they can get their $20, $25 an hour, whatever you're paying them over here. They can do that. Let's give them a full schedule, and they go. And then because I think the one thing that I battle with, and Jennifer would agree with this 100%, is I battle with, I want to provide for my kids above and beyond. I love what I do from the podcast to writing loans, and it's exciting when you're doing the things and people are calling you, referring you, right?
Sure.
And you're like, you get in this role, and then you're like, okay, my family. When am I going to take that time? So that is my battle, to try to move as much of those tasks that someone else can actually do. So it actually relieves me up. So you can have dinner.
Absolutely.
Or go to ball game or whatever.
Yeah, I would say, so when you mentioned, what would George say you need to work on, it would be, he said it to me, that I'm a people pleaser. And part of, my battle with not having good balance is I can't put my phone down. So if a customer asks me a question, I want to, so many times nowadays, people want an immediate response. And I feel like I have to give it to them.
Yes.
And I thrive on, positive feedback, and that's something that clients say to me all the time is, I've never had a realtor that responds in such a timely manner.
Yeah, it makes you feel good.
Yeah. So then you keep doing this bad habit.
And it's not to say timely. I was listening to a podcast, and it's something I want to implement into my business here in the next 90, 120 days. Is they don't actually need the answer from you. Your assistant a lot of times can give them the answer that they just want someone to answer it. And the fact that it's answered in a timely manner doesn't necessarily mean it has to come from you.
Yeah.
And to where there's a very successful agent in town, she tells me, if you call her in the middle of the day, it will go to her assistant. If you want to communicate with her during the day, text her, because otherwise that phone's forwarded, and her assistant's going to answer that call during the day. And I'm like, that's brilliant.
Wow.
Because she's out doing the things that are the $500 an hour tasks.
Activities.
It's going to get the best. What would George say you're the best at?
I would say, and it may not have been George at the time because we had a different, like a human resource coach on our team at the time, but she used to say, I wish I could mold you into all the agents, because I'd like to think I'm coachable.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, it was really nice. She had said, you're very coachable. Sometimes I want to get defensive if Christina or George or Kelly will say something that I did wrong, and I always will process it, think about it that night, and then the next morning I'll come back to him and I'll be like, you were right. I know, you were right. And then I'll, change the way I'm doing things.
Yeah, that's human nature. I think a lot of people are like that. They don't want to think they did something.
Yeah, like you failed.
We know we did something wrong. We don't need someone to tell us.
Right.
Yeah, that's
right. Right.
Trust. So that's why I do try to tell Jennifer, you don't have to keep telling me that. I already know, and I already feel bad. I'm not crying about it, but I already feel bad about it.
Right. I think what makes us, sets us apart in our worlds are that we want to do better. So you learn from your mistakes, even if you're annoyed at the time.
Don't want to admit them often, but we know.
But you want to do better next time. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right, so you got the new agent. We were talking, and I know Christina's actively always recruiting for quality people. If you sat down, do you ever interview some of the new people yourself? Do they bring you in just to kind of
The assistants, yes, because obviously they're working with me. But the new ones, no. Sometimes they'll come to me after the first week and they'll say, what do you think of so-and-so?
So you just had this banner year. So I'm assuming a lot of them are probably actually, either watching what you're doing or asking you what you're doing, or maybe they can take onto their game. What three things would you tell, that new agent in their first 6 months, year, whatever, that's trying to get going, gaining traction? What are three foundational things that you would tell them to do?
Oh, that's tough. I think number one, which I've already spoken to some of the newer agents about on our team, loyalty agreement. In a world where, we want this immediate gratification, there, and Zillow's out there or whatever the platform is,
right.
You're able to go see a home, in an hour if you want. And when we get in front of the client, we're asking for the loyalty agreement, asking them to commit to us and us to them.
That you're going to represent them.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of agents actually honestly do that. I've done it from day one, and I 100% would tell the newer agents that needs to be done.
Right.
That way, if they go work with someone else, you can at least get, a commission.
Because I imagine you probably practice how you present that.
Yeah. So
because initially you're not like, they may just tell me to get lost, right?
Right, yeah. Right. Well, and I try to fold it into how I can add value when I meet the customer and we're building the relationship, and I will do a whole buyer's consultation with them. A lot of people, even ones that have bought 10 years ago, they don't know the process anymore. So I'm going over the whole process. We're actually sitting down and going over contract to close, what to expect, and what to expect on our team. And usually at the end of that, they are willing to sign the loyalty agreement because I've heard clients
you
say
spent
to me,
time with them, you educated them, you gave yourself value to them.
Yeah, and usually they'll respond, "Wow, I've never heard all of that before." So that's key. I would tell the newer agents to always pick up the phone. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. It's it's okay to fail, and follow up. Those are huge. Following up.
Don't be afraid to fail and follow up 2 and 3. I think there's no doubt. And if you watch a lot of motivational videos, and I was putting some in my presentation last week, and there's so many that are just afraid. Whether I don't know if it's we talked about video earlier, right? And what if someone's going to think? Who cares what they think?
Yeah, that you got to get to that point.
The reality is, the people who think negatively of you, trust me, there's somebody out there that does. Who cares?
Right.
They're out there. You may not know they're out there. You may think everyone loves you. They don't. Trust me. There's someone that doesn't like you, and some more than others. But just go and do it. You have to do what you think is right. So put the video out there. Look like a fool. Be honest with you. The more foolish the video, the more chance it's going to go viral anyway.
Absolutely. And I got to commend you for the podcast, because you got out there. You've been doing this a while now. And that's what keeps you fresh and in your game is looking to the future and what are the millennials or whomever, the young, the new people coming in, or even the people that are the older generation, some people are going to hold on to these new things. You don't want to be stuck in your old ways.
I utilize it for a couple different ways, but to tag on what and thank you for the compliment. The amazing stuff you have said some things here today, and while you're saying it, I'm going, yes, that's what you like your consultation.
Yeah.
Some people may, I don't want to go sit for half an hour. They're already ready to make an offer on this house. I don't need to go sit with them for whatever amount of time that takes. Let's just get the contract and be done, and I'll move on to the next one.
Right.
But the reality is, because you spent that 30 minutes, or whatever, I'm assuming, how long does it normally take? 30 minutes is good enough? Yeah. So, is going to pay you dividends on the back end. Now, got you to sign the loyalty agreement, which was your goal, right? After doing that, and you had time to build the relationships, you probably exchanged some wants and needs, so it allowed you to present the house or the houses that they want. You're building all that, but you're building that relationship. And the reality is that 30 minutes is the time that you are uncovering the rock of that buyer, and now you created a relationship. That rock could be exposing you to many more clients. You don't know how many people they know.
Yeah.
I mean, in our area, I mean, how often is it, in the neighborhoods that you used to live in our neighborhood, and then you moved across the road, and then now you're in Ponte Vedra. Did you move again?
Yeah, we're in Nocatee.
You're in Nocatee, yeah. But how many people are calling their friends and family, and they're coming in? I'm working with the builder, and I'm working a lot in these subdivisions. Like, oh yeah, my friend, he's buying, in the neighborhood. They're coming from New York, and their friends are telling them to come. Why not spend 30 minutes with them? Because you don't know, that could be 5 more clients this year.
It's a ripple
You
effect.
never know. You never know.
And I will say, I did watch Christina Welch very closely when we lived in your neighborhood, because we would have these events, and she looked like mom's nights and different things, that Jen does.
She's
too.
a tactician. Christina's a tactician.
Oh my gosh! And
and
I would watch her, and she looks natural.
Yes. And
some people have social anxiety, and I would. Especially when I got into real estate, I would talk to her afterwards, like, it's almost like work, to
she's
do
very
those
good
things.
at what she does.
And she would say, well, you have to build relationships, especially in your community.
Yeah.
And it may not always be fun, but, the best way to do that is getting out and meeting people and having, just conversations. So I have held on to that probably since I met her and moved here.
Yeah.
And that's probably something Christina would say I think I've done well in the last several years is I commit to doing lunches and different, we went on a Halloween, which is bike ride in Nocatee.
Right.
Things to get out in your community. And although internally I may be like, I do have my own social
You never
anxiety.
know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
Someone might be your next best friend.
Yeah.
But everyone, I know who Katie is. Oh, yeah, she's a realtor. And we like to think everyone knows realtors, but there's a lot of new people moving in and they don't. And some of them go right to the builders and never actually meet a realtor.
Yeah.
You don't know who, is the refer. You just don't know. And that's the one great about our business. You don't know what that rock will uncover.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the exciting kind of lottery of it all. That next client could refer you so much business because you
Absolutely.
just do the right things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think, too, with that being said, it builds expectations for the buyer, too. They know what they're getting into. Because I can remember when I was newer and I didn't tell them what to expect for the binder or how much the appraisal potentially could cost. So all these out-of-pocket expenses, if you're a first-time home buyer and you don't have a lot of money, those are important things to discuss. How much is the inspection, you know?
We do it so often, especially, here, you're going to have those same questions over and over again, and you can get short with it because you're just tired of it. I've already I've had 3 people today ask me that question. It's the first time for them, for many of them, or second time, and how many, or they haven't done it in years. Actually, we had a client. My wife was on me, and I was like. He was saying, this process, the paperwork. I said, honey, the last time he probably bought was probably more than 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Lending guidelines were not as much.
Yeah.
And he probably went down to his local credit union where his business does all, and they know how much each month he's depositing. And they probably just did that. Oh, yeah, whatever you want to do, sir, you're approved. And barely act, because they already had his documentation. But today is different. Yeah. And this is how it's going to. So, answering those questions this is how the process works today. It's a great way to build a relationship. So I'm going to finish up with this because you went from education. We talked, obviously you took a pay cut coming to Florida from Ohio and what you were getting there, which kind of gave you a little fork to, hey, maybe I need to get into real estate because you saw the income potential. Now you've been doing it 6 years. You just had the greatest year of your career. How has it... it's moved you to Nocatee, I assume, is probably one of the motivators there. But how are things different than they were, say, 7 years ago for you guys?
Oh, gosh. I would say customer referrals are seeing that come in is huge. But just for us as a family, it's been giving us more... we can actually go on vacation. When we first moved here, we took all of our savings from the house we sold because I was a teacher. I didn't make a lot of money, and then was a teacher again and struggling. So it's nice now to be enjoy little things like going on vacation with your family or even out to dinner. All things that
and you don't even you're not thinking about it anymore. Like you're not going, I need to budget for 6 months because we're going to go to Disney World. We know that's going to cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Now you can you go, hey, let's go to Disney for the weekend and go.
Yeah. Even when I was a new teacher back home and got paid well, I would I would get to the counter at the grocery store, and I would be stressed out, like sweating, like, am I going to be able to afford to pay for our groceries?
Right.
And I can remember feeling like I never want to be like this again.
Right.
I would say that is a huge driving factor for me wanting to build, it's part of, I know where it comes from, that motivation to want to keep performing and doing well. I don't want my family to ever.
How exciting is it? This, like basically the only thing really stopping you from making more income is time, and you. I mean, doesn't it really come down to that?
Yeah.
It's an unlimited income potential, and that's the only thing slowing you down is what you can do. Maybe you get assistance, but that takes you to do that, and you've got to separate those things, and obviously time. We can't do anything about that.
Right.
Right. To me, that's the exciting thing. But sometimes that does keep you up late at night going, I gotta do the next.
Definitely.
I'm trying to I want to clear out everything now because I know in the morning when I go in, there's going to be something new and I got to jump on that and get right on it. Cause I want to be that person to make that compliment. Like you mentioned before. Oh, you respond so quickly. Yeah.
And it's silly, but we have, again, coming from a teacher background, teachers love to have positive reinforcement. And Christina has these plaques when you walk into her office. And one is for every year for most valuable player, and one is for top producer. And she'll put your name on the plaque. So, of course, George and Kelly are like all over that thing. And a goal for just a silly little goal that I had was to make it onto that plaque for top producer. So I did it in 2020. And then in 2021, it's funny because Fergus on our team and George on our team put Post-its on the plaque for 2021.
With their names on it,
and so I wrote on there like, oh, you guys I'm going to give you a run for your money. And it was cool because I got on there again.
Right.
And
you should have made George shave his head or something for that. I mean, that would have been great.
Well, it's cool because he's adapted into a new role now. He's like the team lead for the buyers agents. Right. And I think that he is phenomenal, such a great coach and positive all the time. But when you ask me some things that are different, it's pretty cool to be in our office and the newer agents ask me questions. And I'm like, finally, just like with teaching, I feel like,
it's a measure of your influence over them by your success. And they're obviously they look up to you, and everyone likes to be looked up to. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another confidence booster.
We're going to swing it down because we're coming up on an hour, so we're going to go to my final things. Katie, is it more important who you know or what you know?
I think at the end of the day, it's what you know. That's what sets you apart.
You think so?
I do. I mean, in a way, yes, it was fantastic. I met Christina Welch. She's taken my career to a whole new height, you know?
She didn't want to change your answer now?
I know. Right? But I guess I feel like once you do start to build success with real estate, you get caught up in the who you knows and a lot of that networking and, I hung out with this person or I used this lender or whatever it may be.
Right.
And that's not what I'm about. It's not about the prize at the end. It's to me like...
Well, you can hang out with them, but you got to learn something from them.
Exactly. I'd rather learn and grow and be better at the end of the day.
What's on your guys' travel bucket list?
It's nothing crazy. We're going to Destin with all of our Cincinnati friends from college, and their kids are the same age as my kids, so it's going to be one big crazy house party, I'm sure. That
sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just great. You can organize something like that. It's everyone's lives going different directions.
Yeah, it's a good way to reconnect since we don't see them all the time.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I'm also turning 40 this June, and I keep after my husband, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Do anything surprise or anything? And, he's very much, he likes to say no until the end. I'm not doing anything. And then trick you on the last hour.
I'm not allowed to bring surprises.
You're not allowed?
Trust me, I like
Jen
to plan. No. Trust me, if I surprised her, oh, God. No. I can't.
It's probably the control thing with us again. I get it.
Yes. So this is a new question. I've changed this question up because a podcast I listen about loan officers. Actually, I'm going to a training here in a couple weeks over in Orlando. Again, I'm following this group, a coaching group that I for loan officers, successful people, have large branches around the country anyway. But they talk about the most important things a real estate agent wants from a loan officer. So this is my loan officer question to you, and this is for my teammates here and so forth. And because I was talking last week, and one of the, I was telling you, I was taking some of the key things from the different interviews, the common themes in here. So I want to throw this in. When you're working with a loan officer, what is or someone approaches you? I don't know. Christina has it down pat because I know who you guys work with over there. What is the most important thing, though, you want from that loan officer?
So I'm going to spin this a little bit. Well, number one, I love communication. As you know, I told you I answer my phone way too much.
Right.
So, being able to do a pre-approval on the weekends when you can, being able to respond if I have a question or the buyer does in a timely manner of some sort is very key for me. But I'm spinning it back on you because I say that only because I'm very in tune with my buyers' personalities. Are they analytical? Are they the warm and fuzzy type?
Right. Are they the engineer that wants a spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm trying to figure out what my buyer is and who they would be best paired with.
Right.
So I'm going to say to you, what would your niche be? What do you think you're best at?
Okay.
Look at that.
Loan officers are problem solvers, and I mean, not everyone is got an 800 credit score. They can afford multiple homes because they just make some. Here's my W-2. I'm putting 20% down. Great. Here's your pre-qual. Send me the contract. There's really not much to do there. Basic paperwork in the loan close. Unfortunately, not everyone's like that.
Right.
Actually, for the most part. There is other things involved, but like you said, when you're working with that engineer, I've learned because in the call center environment, having done so much volume for 12 years, because it's a volume situation versus the retail world. Now, obviously, I work with a large builder, so there's a volume from that. I'm used to dealing with that volume because I was in the call center. So juggling from that standpoint, what the thing that I would say, how to express this. Working with those situations, having done so many loans, and gotten feedback from agents as well, and loan officers, is I can smell that loan has a life. The more challenged loans. Not saying I want them all the time, because trust me, they are energy suckers. Okay,
They are.
But
you work 10 times harder.
I can look at someone's situation and evaluate where I think a lot of newbies, so to speak, haven't done a lot of loans, would probably be like, oh, no, you don't qualify. I know I've seen that loan get through before.
That's cool. I like that.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's one of the things I when I'm talking to real estate agents, I tell them all the time. Working at Quicken Loans and Loan Depot in a call center environment with the volume, I've pulled tens of thousands of more credit reports than anyone that's just been out on the street for 16 years. They don't get the volume. Now, granted, they're probably better at me at the relationship building, which I'm working on. But when it comes to, evaluating that credit report and doing those things in that methodical process that the call centers require, I've done it so many times. I've swung the bat so many times. It's, I'll give you a quick example to top off what I'm saying. We were talking about pre-qualifying clients. I have the site agents or agents calling in on the weekends, right? They want that quick pre-qual.
Yeah.
And trust me, sometimes sitting in here, if I'm working on a weekend in the busy times, to do 10 of them in a day can happen especially in the new construction world.
Sure.
And I can pull the client's credit. I can put in their income, quickly look at it. I know that loan's good. I don't need to go in and put all the closing costs in there. And do they have enough money and then run the system? That takes a lot of time. Many people think I'm crazy, but it's because you haven't written enough loans. If you've written enough loans, my loans don't fail. My loans don't fall out because I know they can qualify. And if someone tells me they can't, I push through, and then they end up closing.
That's a good answer.
I don't take no from the person who can't give me the
problem
yes.
solver.
Yes. So
I like that.
I appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
I think it was a great conversation. I hope the Welch team enjoyed it and put this on your social media.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. Bye, Tracy.